Good afternoon, fellow ruminators. Welcome back to another session, Rumination with Andrew. And perhaps it's not going to be Rumination with Andrew. I probably would be on Andrew Tucker TV. So let me just say, welcome back to Andrew Tucker TV. This is my second channel that I have that I'll be posting this video on. But I'm so accustomed to ruminations that, I started out the greetings with that. I did not turn off that light and it looks so terrible in the background. But, let me continue with that sort of greetings to you, one and all, right? Now, this morning, this afternoon, whenever the video gets to you, I am going to look at Raymond Pryce, the battle between Raymond Pryce and Alando Terrelonge. Alando Terrelonge. Now, we have a system in Jamaica in which we tend to focus on the Prime Minister and the opposition leader, and we tend not to look at our members of parliament, which are at the root of the democratic process in which our people are involved. Remember now that our citizens do not elect the Prime Minister, even though in recent times we have had an inordinate amount of attention given to the Prime Minister and the opposition leader. We really elect our members of Parliament, and they are elected, according to us, based on their performance, based on what they've done in our distinctive communities. Now, so I will begin with Terrelonge, Alando Terrelonge, and the JIS presented a very impressive resume and biographical sketch of Alando Terrelonge. Alando, it's not Alando, but Alando, I beg your pardon, Terrelonge. Now, the Honorable Alando Terrelonge, MP, was appointed State Minister in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade on May 22nd, 2023. Prior to this, he served as Minister of State in the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sport. Now, I know he was serving in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Now, when they're in those sort of systems, like, even the Kamina Johnson-Smith, how are they able to be members of parliament and attend to the duties? Or is Kamina not, maybe she's not a member of parliament? I would have to check that. But how are they able to be actively involved when they have such a grand, sort of responsibility? Okay. Mr. Terrelonge was born to parents Winsome and Calvin Terrelonge in the small community of Grand Spence, St. Andrews, so he didn't come from a privileged class. As a child, he went to the Shortwood Basic School and then moved on to Halfwood Tree Primary School. He always dreamt of becoming a lawyer and was taught the values of good education by his parents. He never misses an opportunity to quote his mother's favorite expression, "If you want good, your nose happy run," which he styles or says is the reason for his success in life. He's a graduate of Campton College. Mr. Terrelonge pursued his legal studies at the University of the West Indies, where he attained his law degree. He was later admitted to the Jamaican bar after successfully completing his studies at the Norman Manley Law School, where he was the recipient of several awards and represented the law school and Jamaica internationally. In 2008, he was awarded the Chevening Scholarship by the British Council to pursue a master's degree at the University of Warwick, United Kingdom, where he studied courses related to international relations, international criminal law, and international human rights. Following his master's program, he moved to Madrid, Spain, where he worked on matters related to the promotion of democracy and international peace and security with a think tank called Pride. Think tank called Pryce. So he's no stranger to the think tanks, which are really NGOs, right? So, and they have their own agenda. His love for Jamaica think pride, okay? Think at least so. Is it fried? It's not pride, but fried. Yeah, I beg your pardon. He worked for a think tank called Fried. It's not Pride, as I indicated. Yes, that F, not a P that is here. His love for Jamaica and his family saw him returning to Jamaica in 2010, where he decided that in order to effect change in our society, it was time for him to play his part and let his voice be heard on social issues. He soon became a guest columnist for both the Gleaner and the Observer, writing about politics, law, and social justice. Don't they love the word social justice? And he has also been featured on Profile with Ian Boyne and has been a guest on many television and radio programs speaking about law and politics. In 2011, his passion for both law and education led him to become an associate tutor at the Norman Manley Law School, where he tutored trial advocacy for several years. So his commitment to nation building later pivoted him from the new role of politics following his historic win in the Jamaican general elections of February 2016. He became the first member of the Jamaican Labour Party to win a seat in the municipality of Portmore in 36 years. So he has created some form of history here. He now represents the constituency of East Central St. Catherine and views his role as Member of Parliament as a means to continue to make a positive impact in the lives of his constituents and play his part in building a better and more prosperous Jamaica. Now, very impressive resume that the JIS, the Jamaica Information Service, has presented on Alando, Terrelonge. Now, Raymond Pryce, let us look at a brief graphical sketch on Raymond Pryce. And Raymond Pryce has his own, what you call it now, his own website. For those of you who want to go, you can go on to the Raymond for eastcentral.com. And he has his own website, which is very good. He's a clever guy and he is a communicator and wears many hats. Now, this is I'm going to read you from this, his biography from his own website. Raymond Pryce is a native of Craighead, Manchester, where he still describes as, which he still describes rather as his true home. So the paid print here. After graduating from St. George's College, he went on to complete studies at the University of the West Indies at the Department of Life Sciences, where he focused during that section of his academic career on natural resources management and marine biology. So he's a scientist. After completion of his academic interests at the University of the West Indies, Mona campus, Raymond became a lecturer at UWI and later the College of Agriculture, Science and Education, CASE. So we have here opportunities overseas soon presented and Raymond's pursuits shifted to the design and management of public policy. Those credentials saw him working with the Inter-American Development Bank in Washington, D.C. So these guys are working for these same multilateral institutions that are helping to destroy us, as well as various consultancies across the region. So he has here the Director of Research, Information and Communication at the Consumer Affairs Commission, Senior Policy Advisor at the Ministry of Tourism, and Director of Business Development or Paymaster Jamaica. Now, when they're having these, consultancies and these consultant jobs, and they're working for the Minister of Tourism and all of these ministries that they find themselves in, will they be able to be clear-eyed in their distinctive roles as members of parliament? Because we know that the tourism industry and the whole matter of development of Jamaica are very distinctive, are very distinct. And I saw recently that Jamaica with Irie, she was presenting a very, wonderful beach, or river, not beach, but river that she saw in Clarendon. And she was lamenting the fact that there are many very interesting spots, beautiful spots in Jamaica that have been untapped. And the tourist industry is not willing to do that because they want to monopolize the industry. And if they could only merge tourism with the ordinary people, with ordinary Jamaicans, then they would be able to make money. The people who sell, the vendors, the craft, all of them, the food vendors, the craft vendors, all types of vendors, among other business enterprises could thrive if only we knew how to merge, tourism with the national economic development, local development, not with foreign development, because these foreign investors are not keeping their monies there. They're not investing in education, in healthcare, and other important infrastructural development that we need in Jamaica. They're not doing that. So when we see them working for these organizations and they're making policies, what policy, Mr. Raymond, could you have made there? And are we seeing those policies being translated into the lives of ordinary Jamaicans? These are some of the important questions that we should be asking. Most recently, Raymond has served our country as a parliamentarian and is now Chief Operating Officer at the Research and Development Company. That's the RG 2020. Additionally, Raymond is a broadcast media personality at CVM Television, primarily as a presenter for CVM at Sunrise. One of the things I'm seeing that we're getting into this Americanized version of ourselves in terms of having, we're spreading our wings and trying to be a jack of all trade, a jack and a Jill of all trade, but, a master of none. Okay? That is what sometimes defines the American culture. Everybody is all things to all men, right? Trying to be all things to all men, and that is impossible for us to extend our wings to many, many. But we don't want to make the video long. So the station is a morning program where he pursues a range of youth development activities, initiatives rather, including the Dialogue for Transformation series. So he's very accomplished. Both gentlemen are accomplished, and they're vying for East Central St. Catherine. Now, there was an article that came out in which, both of them were suggesting, well, Raymond Pryce was suggesting that Terrelonge was actually following him, stalking him everywhere he goes, and, Alando was not very, was doing what he was doing, copying what he was doing. So if he went to somewhere, when he got there, people would say that Terrelonge was already there, and it was just a bunch of nonsense, children playing over a constituency. Okay. Now, so we're looking here, and Raymond Pryce is, suggesting that Pryce vows to end 114 months of broken promises in St. Catherine East Central, vowing to turn the tables on his opponent in the September 3rd general election. People's National Party PNP candidate for St. Catherine East Central, Raymond Pryce, said the true strength of the party did not turn out in the 2020 national polls. And I think that, Gordon Robinson did allude to this, that because of the pandemic, many of the PNP supporters did not turn out to vote. And he's predicting that this time they're going to show up for voting, and they are going to vote in favor, obviously, for or of Raymond Pryce. Pryce accused Member of Parliament Alando Terrelonge of failing the constituency during what he described as 114 months of broken promises. He said the former Member of Parliament had allegedly received from the state more than 3 billion Jamaican dollars through the Constituency Development Fund, the CDF, and other government programs to fix drains and maintain them, build sidewalks and maintain them, and make sure every citizen have direct access to the National Water Commission. Instead of opening training centers, his opponent has closed one in Watson Grove. Pryce continued. Beaming with confidence, he said, when the ballots are counted on election day, the PNP will be declared the government of Jamaica and St. Catherine. East Central will be rescued from the dark 114 months of representation by someone who understands the performative arts, but does not understand representative leadership. And I think that, this is the only can be applied to Terrelonge as he's here making the claim. I think that is what is really indicative of many of our members of parliament, that they understand the performative arts, which means that they can perform, then they can talk their talk, but to walk the walk is another thing which they often don't. But they don't understand, as Raymond here is intimating, representative leadership, which is very important. Pryce said for the last 60 months, listen to what he's saying, for the last 60 months. But why the last 60 months? He has been embedded in the constituency and engaging with residents outside of election. And that is what they need to do. They need to embed themselves in the constituency, even when they're not from there. Try to find time. But I am wondering, as I've suggested before, how is it when they have these very, lofty positions and all of these consultancies? How can they even embed themselves in these constituencies, in these communities? They don't have time for the people. I have walked into communities where they say, but I know politics time yet. How come you reach? He said. So they're telling him that it was very abnormal to see him in the constituency that early because they're not accustomed perhaps to seeing Terrelonge there. Alando is not going to show up 60 months or so before and trying to engage the people. They're there when you're just a few months away or 2 months or so away from the elections. Okay. And that's what I'm saying. We see these things year after year, decade after decade, and we still do the same thing. We vote them in and we vote them out. And when you go back to Jamaica, the more things change, the more they remain the same. You go there and you might see as a few decent roads. You're not going to knock that, but it has to be because all countries have their roads. And lots of the developments that you're talking about, Jamaica being developed, other countries see these as basic facilities. But there's much more when we talk about development, development of the human capacity, development of entrepreneurship, development of your medical infrastructure, development of your educational infrastructure. And how many schools have been built? How many universities have been built over the decades that we are an independent nation. So it's much more to what you think when we talk about development. And maybe one day I should title my video, what do we mean? What do we understand when we use the term development? Very important that we understand that. Okay, so I have walked into communities where they say, "I no time for you yet. How come you reach yet?" The people candidate said, the PNP rather, not the people, but the PNP candidate said he has listened to the people, learned from them, and is now in a better position. Now, of course, you have to listen to the people, right? Where do we have this dictatorial? And we say it's a democracy. It's a dictatorship where people just, every 2 months before the election turn up and they decide to give you what they think you should get. Not what you tell them that you need, but what they think that you should get. That is what they do. And Jamaicans are not particularly, upset with that perspective. They just, yes, and they jump and they carry on because Alando Terrelonge have to win, him have to win the show. Right? That is how you are, aren't you? That way. Yeah. So this is what Raymond Pryce is suggesting. There's not much coming from Alando Terrelonge in terms of his achievements in that constituency, which suggests to me that something is not so right. Apart from using the same, what we call cliches that you hear from the JLP that is choose Jamaica and that the party has built prosperity and all of peace and prosperity for the constituency or the constituents, you're not hearing anything of substance coming from him. Now, I would like to see from Raymond Pryce also, which I have not read. And Mr. Pryce, you can correct me if you're listening to this, to my program, but I have not really read anything, any specific things that you'll be doing. I'm sure that you're highlighting that there are problems with water problems, there are water problems there. There are other infrastructural deficits that you itemized in the article that was written, that you said he received 3 billion and they're still having problems with drains and sidewalks and many other problems that they have there. All right, because he's saying that they should have direct access to the National Water Commission. Obviously, they have to carry water on their heads and whatever, right? In the 2025, and Andrew Holness ran his first platform, his first manifesto that he would have had water harvesting, and this is now 10 years into his administration. 10 years, and people are suggesting to me that you have bureaucracies and bureaucratic, yes, problems and difficulties, roadblocks. Yes, but you are the government and you have to fix those roadblocks. You've got to fix those roadblocks because a lot of times they do what they want to do. They do what they want to do and they get done what they want to get done. Okay, if they are serious about getting that done. But our people need to impose upon these people. They need to tell them that we want these things done and they must be done immediately. All right, that is what I see it coming down to. Now, who do I think will win the election between Terrelonge? Two very astute, brilliant, and an internationally acclaimed gentlemen who have served on think tanks and multilateral institutions. Now, I think that given the fact that Raymond Pryce has embedded himself for the last 114 months in the constituency. Is it 114 months or 60 months or whatever he said? I think that, and he is attuned to what is happening on the ground. And Terrelonge is the incumbent, doesn't have the time to walk around and to listen. And that's another thing that's not fair for the people who are incumbent to be members of parliament and they have other responsibilities to perform, other duties to perform in the government. It suggests that the opposition will have more time to connect with the people and the incumbent may not have that time. So I don't know how we are going to restructure our politics, but it seems to me that it's often not very fair to the incumbent, which has a lot of, appointments and, job description and responsibilities, right? So I think that what needs to be done is that we need to sit and reflect of how they're going to manage their time with the jobs that they're assigned, or maybe we need not to assign them so many different job responsibilities and being engaged in so many meetings, and then they have no time to sit with their constituents, because they also are ordinary people. They might have their own families, and they have to spend time with their families too, and their friends, and and whatever, because they're human beings just like you and I, right? So they have a schedule, a daily life, and they have connections that we also have. So I think we need to sit and be very honest, be very fair to the incumbent, whether the People's National Party or the JLP. But in this context, I'm referring to the JLP that Alando Terrelonge is a part of. And based on the fact that he was not able, and perhaps still not able to connect with his constituents because of the sheer amount of responsibility and tasks to which he has been assigned, then I would think that Raymond Pryce stands a good chance of winning. I think he does, because people like to see that you are engaging them. And the fact that they were even asking him, it's not time for you to come here yet. Where do you? Right? They're suggesting that they're not accustomed to seeing Terrelonge there, or the years that he's been member of parliament. So they're suggesting that Raymond Pryce is doing something that they've not seen, and people like when you connect with them. Now, the only way that Terrelonge could win is if he's issuing some money, since they are the government in office, or he's working on a major project that will, what should I say, all the things, the drainage, if he fix the drains, work on making the constituency and having direct access to the National Water Commission, right? I think if he does that, I don't think he can do that in the short space of time, the short window of time, the narrow window of time that he has before the election date. So I think that at this point, I don't see Raymond Pryce losing. And remember, we said too that many of the PNP supporters did not show up during the pandemic to have voted for Raymond Pryce the last general election. So I think that more than likely they are going to show up. They are going to show up. And I think it's hardly unlikely, because it doesn't seem to me, based on what I've read, that Alando Terrelonge has done anything particularly impressive for that constituency, for the people to be, say, okay, we're not going to vote for the PNP anymore. We're going to vote for the JLP because they have been good to us. Based on what we're hearing, and Terrelonge has not really denied much of what Raymond is saying, in terms of his absence in the constituency. And it would be from a natural, from a very obvious perspective, the fact that he's so engaged and he has so many different responsibilities. Both men have, but at least Raymond Pryce is not caught up with the day-to-day activities and, the day-to-day business performances of the incumbent government. So my prediction, what do you say? And my prediction is that there is going to be a win by the PNP for many, many different reasons that I've itemized, and also for more that I have not seen because I'm not on the ground, right? So I can't give you a definitive response. And even if I were there, we can only, project some speculations here. We can't say definitively that anything can happen, because politics is a bet and anything can happen. Gamble, casino, right? So thank you so much for joining. What do you think? Hope that you leave your comment in the comment section. See you in another one. Ciao.